This is a clip from Beyond Classified. You can access the entire episode now at rockfin.com/FKN+. Well, I want to get your thoughts on the powers of the mind, these what you would call placebos. Are these really just placebo effects, or are these actual healing powers of our mind that has been suppressed somehow for, from years of probably not exercising these abilities? But it seems that, I have witnessed this, I've experienced it, I've had guests that have had miraculous healings for whatever reason, because they believed in something, because they believed it would work. It did heal them. It healed, I've had guests that have had cancers healed, very profound diseases that just because they had these belief systems of if they did something, ate a certain way and just they didn't have to take this medicine, they just believed that God would heal them, and it did. Now, is this a placebo, or is this something that we're suppressing in our consciousness? And if it is just a placebo, I've witnessed how powerful this is firsthand many times. We hear the stories all the time. Why doesn't our modern medical industry ever use this, put this as a consideration, and do more studies into the powers of our healing of the mind? My conspiratorial mind goes, because they don't want us to, they want to keep us on the pharmaceuticals, and that's just me. But what are your thoughts on that?
You're not wrong. I don't think you're wrong. I mean, we live in a capitalistic society, and people put research into things that will get them money. I don't always look. I'm not very conspiratorial, but here's the thing: like, you don't have conspiracy theories wouldn't be a thing. Nobody would be a conspiracy theorist if there weren't conspiracies, right, which are not the same as conspiracy theories. Conspiracies actually happening, so they do happen. I mean, just off the top of my head, Watergate, Epstein's Island. That's just two. Conspiracies do turn out to be true, and they do happen, and. That said, I don't always believe that big groups are evil the way that people talk about them. I got a lot of friends and colleagues who will talk about like big pharma, like the evil big pharma. I don't believe it that way. I see it more as just a capitalistic, and I am a capitalist myself, but a capitalistic society or group that's become so huge and so self-interested. You go to work and you say, how can we make more money today? That's what we do. Oh, we're going to put our research into this. Okay. So the results are probably pretty evil and sick, but I don't believe that the individuals I don't blame them that much. Maybe the people at the top, because they can direct things in a different way. Now, I think so that's one reason that placebo hasn't been looked into enough. I mean, there's no money in it, right? Who's going to spend? I suppose maybe placebo works better if you spend more money on the sugar pill. Like, this is a $1,000 sugar pill. It's going to cure you even more. Yeah. The other reason is I think it's unethical to do those kinds of, imagine if they did take a sample of like 1,000 people with breast cancer and they gave 500 of them, what's it called that you use on cancers?
Radiation chemo.
Right, chemo. You give 500 of them chemo, and 500 you give fake chemo, right? And see which of them die. What do you say to the families of the 500 who died when you didn't give them, if that does happen, and you go, oh yeah, sorry, we were testing placebo. It's impossible to test ethically. That's the issue with it, and we don't know enough about it. And also, everybody, depending on their state of mind, is going to react entirely different to it. So there's not ever going to be any consistency to it. But it's still really powerful, as you say. It can change people's lives. And I'm never discounting anything spiritual as well. I just don't believe in it. So maybe that stuff's going on. But what's really interesting, I don't know if you've ever seen. Do you know the mentalist Derren Brown?
I've heard. I'm not really familiar with him, no.
You'd love him, man, I think you would. He's like a magician on stage, and he's got this thing called, what was it called? Shoot. He's got a thing on Netflix, Miracle. Oh. And he literally gets up on stage and he says, I don't have any superpowers, I don't believe in spirituality, any of this stuff, but I'm going to cure people today. And he gets people to come up from the audience, and he says, you were blind, and now you can see, read this passage, and they read it. And he says, you had a bad back, now you don't. How do you feel? And they go, oh my God, I feel amazing. I can't walk. He makes them walk. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And he says, I'm telling you, I'm going to keep telling you this. There is nothing spiritual. There is nothing magic in what I'm doing. Everything here is to do with the mind. And that is, to me, even more fascinating than the idea that it's some sort of religious spiritual power. Our brains are the most incredible things in the universe. And, if we could only figure out how to use them to the best of our ability, wow, they're pretty amazing.
Definitely so. And this kind of also links up with what I want to talk about when it comes to the UFO topic. Before we get too deep into it, give us a synopsis of the UFO film.
Well, that was only quite a short film, and it went first to Fusion and then they took it to HBO, and that was about a small village in Argentina called Capilla del Monte. And over there, everybody believes in aliens. And, well, I guess I believe in aliens, actually. That's funny. I was just thinking of it like as a different thing. Like, they believe in aliens over there. And oh, so do I. But they're really into it. And they believe that, little green men have visited us. They're much more into it in that sense than I am. Although I can't discount it either. And it got big over there because I think it was the 80s, they woke up to find that the side of their mountain had been entirely eradicated. There's a patch of just brown over it. To me, it looks like it was burnt, like a fire might have started and burned all the trees. But to them, they were like, something alien has happened here. And over the next few decades, Capilla del Monte became this huge touristy new age kind of place. It's very hard to find who really believes and who's just trying to make money off the back of it. But they've got a UFO museum there and all sorts of things, and they do lectures, and they have a festival every year where all the biggest UFO believers and scholars and things in the area get together and give lectures. And so I thought, hey, I'll go along, check it out, see what's going on. I believe more in aliens than I do in Exorcism. So I thought, okay, let's see what I can see here. I mean, I'd love to see that, right? Imagine that. Imagine... wow, just something in the sky like that, or see an alien, see anything that comes from another planet. It would be the most exciting day of my life. So I went with a couple of guides from the area who take a bunch of people up to a mountain called Cerro Uriturco, and that is where most alien sightings happen. So I climbed up to the top with them, and they did some sort of meditations and things, which already I thought, okay, this isn't really for me. This is a bit new age hippie stuff, because I do believe there are aliens and stuff. I don't believe that meditating and that singing stuff is gonna bring them to me. But we did that, and we looked, and they said, look, those are the lights of the aliens, and to me it was like, those are car headlights. And they were like, no, that's aliens. And I was like, well, do the aliens have cars? Because it looks like cars. And they're like, no. So, it was fun. It was a bit of fun. And it was, they were talking about aliens called ERKs, ERKS. And I can't remember what it all stands for. But from the fifth dimension, something like that, But it was a great trip. And I think I learned a lot about belief and about people and stuff.
Yeah, UFOs is one of those topics that I've actually completely flipped my view on from since I first started doing this. I probably have a more skeptical view of UFOs and aliens than you do, but just from a lot of the evidence that I've heard from people that are considered whistleblowers who come on the show that are saying, yeah, a lot of the stuff they're showing us in the sky, we already have. This is our advanced technology. This is secret military black projects. And if that's the case, if they're just showing us stuff we already have, why are they now having all these Pentagon investigations saying, no, it's not humans that are flying these things, it's something else? And all this push to say, yeah, it may be extraterrestrials out there, when in fact it may not be, that they're just showing us a lot of their fancy craft and things, maybe, for war effort, maybe just to roll out some new toys. I don't know. Just what are your thoughts on, since 2017, New York Times article, everybody's been interested in UFOs, and it's been just growing in popularity since then.
Yeah, I think you raise a good point. It does seem a little bit like if they wanted to keep those secret operations secret and things are coming out, it is better to sort of push towards the alien stuff, which they were previously, not willing to talk about. So there is that. Who was I talking to about this the other day? I don't know. So, someone was saying the other day, the only thing scarier than the idea that the government is doing all this crazy stuff, they're secretly developing all this weapons in the sky and they're lying about aliens. The only thing scarier than all of that is that they're not doing it. that the government isn't doing anything. It was right. Tim Pool I was talking to, and he was talking about. Do you know Tim Pool?
I don't know personally, but I'm very familiar. Yeah.
Right. So he was saying about biological weapons, and he and his co-host were saying, it seems the government is secretly developing biological weapons for warfare and stuff like that, because you have to go against other countries and stuff if they're doing it, and then you end up spreading a disease. That sounds like a very plausible way that we'll go extinct one day. Someone's going to release a much more efficient version of COVID or something, and that's the end of us, and someone could do it for purposes of war. And he had been talking to someone who was had been right in government and had been doing all that stuff and was a bit of a whistleblower, as you say. And he was like, we're not doing that. We're not developing biological weapons. And Tim and the other guys just wouldn't have that. They were angry that this guy would suggest it. And it could be that guy's lying. I have to accept that, or that he doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't know. But the back of my mind, I'm thinking, God, there's one thing scarier than the fact that they're developing biological weapons, is the idea that they are not, that all the other countries are, like Russia's developing, all this stuff, and the US government is not doing it. That's really scary. So sometimes I think we go to conspiratorial places because it's scary to think of the reality. It's the same reason sometimes we go towards religion and stuff. It's a much pleasanter idea, even if it involves scary stuff like UFOs, than that no one knows what they're doing. We're just a bunch of idiots bumping into each other until we die, and that's it. So maybe you're right, and the government is hiding black ops stuff in the sky. Maybe they're hiding UFO stuff, or maybe they're looking. But what's scarier is that they don't even know what it is. That's a scary thought.
It is very interesting. I had a guest that recently wrote a book called Roswell Exposed or something like that, where him and his co-author actually find evidence that Roswell was not only not aliens, but it could have been Japanese dirigibles or airships that actually made it to over Area 51 and got shot down. And we were embarrassed as a country, so we blamed aliens and UFOs and kept doing that, to perpetuate the lie. So if that's true, if Roswell, one of the largest foundations of ufology and people's understanding of what's going on here, is fake, that changes a lot of things. And unfortunately, I know for a fact that they're putting a lot of individuals into the UFO community to muddy the waters, a lot of people that they're just spreading crazy information. And really, there's never been any proof that people being abducted or having these contact or weird alien experiences have anything to do with what we're seeing in the sky or UFOs or any relation at all. So this whole thing is very interesting what's happened right now.
Yeah, I think so. It just, like I say, it just seems odd. I think if an alien civilization had technology so far superior to anything we can even imagine. I mean, let's remember, the way that technology grows and changes and develops is we never see it coming. People 20, 30 years ago would not have imagined the way that you and I are talking to each other right now. Sure, they had a basic idea about some sort of phone with a video on it. They would not have gotten this. There are so many different ways that things have developed that just were not. It's really fascinating to look back at the 1900s and see what people imagined the future would look like. Those are some of my favorite pictures that people have drawn of the future and stuff. So an alien civilization, to have the technology to get here from wherever they are in the world, in the universe, they could be tens of thousands of years ahead of us. I'm not talking 20, 30 years the iPhone was built. I'm talking tens of thousands. So they would just be so advanced. And the idea that they would get here and yet sort of accidentally let themselves be seen every now and then just seems the most far-fetched part of all of it, doesn't it?